Hello and welcome to the Computer Lab Vids YouTube channel. This video is on how to remove and refit a keyboard from the Lenovo E531. There is some other models as well that fit very similar to this, so obviously if yours looks similar it might be worth just a look and just watch this video. So I'm just starting with the keyboard out of the laptop just to show you how the actual mechanism works, and you see me just pointing with the screwdriver here to the small indentations on the black plastic slider just on the top of the actual keyboard here, and you can see these when it's mounted into the actual laptop frame. So what we need to do, we need to push this black plastic sort of towards the screen when it's mounted in the actually in the laptop itself, and this is to remove the actual keyboard. So I'm just showing you with a screwdriver just because it's easier really, just to try and focus with the camera whilst I show you. So you can see what I'm pushing against there, you can see the gap start to open just at the top of the keys. So we need to do this because there's some screws holding the actual keyboard into the main frame. So you need obviously a pry tool, anything really, just to open the actual gap up. So you can see I'm just holding there with a screwdriver, keeping against the bottom frame and then sort of tweaking it just so it pushes this black sliding like cover plate upwards. And if you're trying to do this obviously whilst it's mounted in the actual laptop, you can work your way along and just see if you can get it to move. The particular laptop that I'm going to show in the video I'm working on, it's actually been spilt on with something sticky, so this actual frame is stuck and I can't actually get to do this one while it's mounted in the frame, so I have to actually try and pry it out, which I will show you how to do as well, just so not to damage the actual laptop. But again, just work with your pry tool along this edge, and you can see once you've got the actual black top slider in position, the gap above all the keys will open up. And also the tabs will come away from the bottom, which hold it into the bottom of the main frame, which again will become more apparent when I show you actually in the laptop. But if you see there, the tabs along the bottom edge, they're all now in line with the metal frame, so this black plastic is pushed up, and that's also made the little tabs there go into line with the actual metal frame. And then this exposes the screws there, so one on the caps lock there, and there's one on the F key there, another one on the J key, and there's also one down there on the colon key. Now yours might have a couple more screws, some of the other models do, but this one only has 4. And again, if you look along the top edge, you can see this black slider. It's you can see the gap between the actual main keyboard frame and the black sliding locking plate while it's pushed in that position. Okay, so now I need to get the actual thing out. If yours is stuck like this particular model is, like I said, it's had a spillage on it, so the actual sliding black thing locking plate is stuck, so I've basically got to work my way along the keyboard and just trying to get it to move and try and get these tabs clear of the main frame itself. So I've speeded this video up just along here, just so you can see me just trying to work away along, and I've got a plastic pry tool here not to damage the main frame, and I'm just working along. You see the little indent there, that's the sliding bit of the main frame, so I'm just working away along the frame. Again, anywhere where there's a tab, I'm sort of trying to work away, and here it's really stuck, so I end up I think with 2 of the plastic pry tools in here just to try and get things moving, and I'm just trying to push the actual keyboard up into the towards the actual screen. So again, just skip a bit there, just because all it is me just going along this edge, being very patient really, because we don't want to damage anything, and just working with the pry tools. Obviously once you start getting a bit of a gap to open on the bottom, if you can get the tabs clear, which you can see there, their tabs are visible now, so I've actually popped them out, so I can actually get the pry tool in along the underside of the actual keyboard, the old keyboard, which I need to get out. So I'm starting now to get it loose, so I can get the pry tool, move it along, make sure everything's popped up along this front edge here, making sure I can get to the screws, which I'm going to in a minute. So now I've got it sort of clear of this back edge, got the tabs out, but now I need to get the screws. So there, I'm just trying to move the sliding frame now, just trying to get it to expose the screws a little bit, so I'm just pulling it towards me. just to get the gap to open slightly. So I've got it to open enough now where I can actually get to the screws, so I can actually get the keyboard out of the frame, the main laptop. So this is me just the small plastic pry tool just to make a gap big enough for my Phillips screwdriver, and just unscrew the 4 screws on the keyboard. Again, obviously if yours has got more screws in, just be very careful, just give it a little wiggle just to see if it stops. You see there, final one of the caps key, and now we're exposed so we can get to the cables. I'll pop the cables off. Now here's the 4 screws that I've just undone by exposing the gap on the keys. So the ones in red are the 4 screws that's on this particular model. Yours might have 2 more where the yellow circles are there. Again, like I said, when you're unscrewing it, just be careful that yours might have them 2 extra screws. So this is the underside of the new keyboard. Again, the circles in red, these are the 4 screws that I need. Now this particular keyboard is the one that's suited to other models as well, so it has 2 extra screws in the actual base plate just to the left. Obviously this is upside down, so these 2 will be on the right when I put it into the actual laptop frame. So I need to get rid of these 2 yellow screws. They're held on with a small C-clip. I've already removed that one in yellow there. I'm just going for this just to show you how to get this out. I'm using a standard knife just to pop the C-clip off the 2 very fine C-clips, and they just hang on around the screws, around the knuckle just at the end of the screws there. Once you pop both C-clips off, they just drop out the keyboard, and then you're ready to fit the new keyboard in. So if it's an official keyboard, which this one is, it should have the blue protective strip here with a black rubber holding rubber band really, which sits along the top of this the black sliding frame, which I showed you at the beginning of the video, and this stops it going into the lock position whilst it's in transit and whilst you get ready to fit it. So don't throw this away just yet, because we're going to use that rubber strip in a second just to help fit the keyboard, so just put that to one side. Okay, so the new keyboard is in the unlocked position at the moment, so you can see the main bottom base plate, metal plate, is and the top black sliding plate are in line, so the black little tabs there sitting along the edge of the metal frame. So using your snips, just snip off a small section of the rubber strip which we just pulled off, and here we're going to wedge these just into the bottom of the actual keyboard just to stop the locking mechanism going into position whilst we get the actual keyboard into the frame. If you don't put these in, the actual top slider, the locking sliding plate, can actually move down whilst you're trying to position the keyboard, and obviously some of these sometimes just takes a bit of manoeuvring just to get into position. So cut another strip off again, and I usually just use 2, so I'll put one in either side. It's enough just to hold it while you manoeuvre and get things in position in the main frame. So just push these into, they're exactly the right size because obviously it's just come out of the top section, so they fit perfectly. Leave them just dangling out so you can get to them when you need to pull them out in a second once you've got everything into position. So you can see I've just left the edge hanging loose, but you can see where it sits in between the actual top sliding plate and the metal holding plate which screws to the main laptop frame. So you're sliding underneath the ledge nearest to the screen, and once it's tucked under there, you will feel a slight spring on it because in the center, usually the middle of sort of the F keys, where the top slider is, that'll just push up against the inside of the keys, but don't worry about that. We're trying to keep this gap marked in yellow there all the time so we can get to the screws. So now I'm happy that I'm sort of relatively in position. Start to work my way along the screws here, and all the time keeping an eye on and make sure that rubber strip's still in place, indicated by the green arrow there. So we'll just do the 4 screws. Again, yours might have a couple more screws sort of nearer to the number pad on this side, but just go along the screws that you need to tighten up. Make sure you don't over tighten them, just nip them up. And once you're happy that we're in position, we then need to make sure that the tabs nearer to the mouse pad are sort of in and pushed down and ready to be locked in. So this is where we're going to slide the locking plate towards the mouse pad, sort of away from the LCD screen. So make sure the tabs are in place. Again, just use your pry tool just to push it down, just to make sure it's in. Don't force it. If you're forcing it, there's something gone wrong somewhere and it's just not quite sitted right. So double check everything, and once you're happy, you can pull the rubber spacers out that you placed in. And once the rubber spacers come out, then that leaves the top sliding locking plate to push into position. So obviously pull the two out. Make sure that the tabs are then pushed sort of lined up, and then using a plastic pry tool, so we don't want to damage anything, we just need to put it into the small indentation and pull towards the trackpad and yourself. So on each of the indentation, there's 3 on this particular one, just keep pulling and making sure it's going into position, just working your way along, because they're pulling away. And this also makes the keys, if you don't pull it in position correctly, the keys won't actually move up and down in the full stroke. So you need to make sure that everything's fully lined up here, and this is pulled up right up against the bottom of the screen. Okay, so thank you very much for watching my channel, and if this video has helped, please give us a thumbs up or leave me a comment below, or please do subscribe if you'd like to see more hints, tips and how-to videos.